Hello and welcome to another standard video. Today we're checking out this Naya Exile deck built around Count on Luck as one of our card draw engines. A triple red enchantment saying at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library and you may play that card this turn. So essentially a Phyrexian arena for our deck that doesn't cost us any life, and we have additional synergies with playing cards from exile such as Pia Nalar, which will make a 1/1 hasty Thopter whenever we play a land or cast a spell from exile. And then there's also Rocco Street Chef, which will give us a food token as well as a +1/+1 counter whenever someone plays a card from exile, and each turn Rocco also exiles the top card of each player's library, and they can play those cards until their next turn. So with Count on Luck we can get a nice stew going where we generate additional value of Rocco and Pia, and we have additional cards that can enable them thanks to the plot mechanic, which lets us pay 2 mana in advance for the Highway Robbery, and then we can cast it for free on a following turn out of exile. So that can also trigger Pia and Rocco and lets us discard a card to draw 2 most of the time. And then we also have the Discover mechanic with Geological Appraiser letting us discover 3. And then there's Quintorius, which can discover 4 when he enters, and whenever we cast a spell from exile, Quintorius will deal 2 damage to each opponent and we gain 2 life, so that's even more synergy with the 3 mana enchantment. And then it's just a matter of configuring the rest of the deck to include answers to the current meta, so we're mainly focusing on creature decks with the early Torture Tower that can deal 2/2 creatures, sometimes 3 if we bargain it, and between Rocco and Pia there's plenty of artifact tokens we can sacrifice to bargain. And then at 2 mana there's Get Lost to deal with creatures, planeswalkers or enchantments, so that can take care of the larger threats in the format. And then Rest in Peace is a concession to the many graveyard combo decks, mainly the Omniscience combo deck that's quite popular at the moment, and if we're playing in a matchup where it's not all that useful, we can always discard it to our own Highway Robbery, so it's not necessarily a dead card. And then at 3 mana, I've got 2 copies of Perilous Snare as another flexible answer that can exile opposing permanents and can eventually get to max speed to give us additional +1 counters. Brotherhood's End can be a little awkward with our own Pia or Quintorius, although with Rocco we can maybe get Pia out of range from the 3 damage and can occasionally destroy all artifacts. And then Sunfall, another great answer to creature decks, exiling all creatures and letting us incubate. Now some of these cards may not be super synergistic with our exile game plan, but I'm just trying to make sure the deck is well rounded to hopefully stand a chance in each matchup. And then the mana base is also quite tricky to figure out. My initial build did not have the basic forest and plains and instead maxed out the surveil lands so that every land can still produce red to cast a turn 3 Count on Luck. But the problem there is that we'll end up with a lot of tap lands if we want to play both the surveil lands as well as the fast lands like Inspiring Vantage. So I did end up switching to a Fabled Passage mana base, which does mean we'll sometimes draw forest or plains when we want to cast a Count on Luck, but we have more reliable access to white and green mana, and we also have more untapped lands later in the game, which is also important since we often want to be double spelling while exiling cards with Count on Luck, so we don't want any cards to go to waste. So we have 5 basics we can fetch with our 4 Fabled Passage, then we have 4 surveil lands total, 2 Commercial District and 2 Elegant Parlor. Good to play early. The surveil can be useful to maybe set up our top deck that we're about to exile with Count on Luck or Rocco, and then they're also great for setting up the Verge lands, which are perfect here. The green one especially starts out by making red, so that's great. The white-red Verge land will need a mountain in order to make a red mana, but that's usually not a problem. And then since we're more heavily skewed towards the white, we also have the full set of Inspiring Vantage, no Copperline Gorge. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump in some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play. Our hand seems fine. If Rest in Peace is not useful in the matchup, I can just discard it to the Robbery, which is why we can maybe get away with some main deck graveyard hate. Another card I considered was Cease and Desist, but it's not always good enough against certain graveyard decks. Is our opponent on a black-white, maybe Esper Pixie deck? So I don't think I'll need Rest in Peace. Can just Count on Luck for now and hang on to the Robbery. Says if we can play Rocco first, we'll get immediate value. Pixie confirmed. Nightmare makes me discard, so that can also ditch the Rest in Peace, even though Quintorius is unlikely to get cast. Take 2. And another count on luck. Sure, why not? Now I might want to hit my land drop for a turn, however. Torch is also a decent answer to the scavenger, but yeah, I'll give up a little bit of robbery value to maybe hit our land drop. And then I could still maybe torch the scavenger. So I think Quintorius might be the more ambitious one. Rocco at least survives nowhere to run, and Get Lost could be useful at maybe blowing up a creature or enchantment, so... our land will be tapped, but at least we still found one. And then Brothos End can also help clean up. So relatively passive start from our opponents, so makes it more likely that they have some creature removal in hand. Fear of Isolation, bounce Nightmare. So Scavenger goes up to 4 toughness, most likely. So then I can still Brothos End plus Torch. Yeah. So discard the Get Lost. Still holding out hope for Rocco. And then we want lands in exile. Alright, I'll take the Vantage. And then we have to act now. Alright, so we're still at 10 life, and we've got these 2 card draw enchantments in play. So don't hate my spot. Anchorage might be harder to remove. And the opponent's getting value out of their Nightmare. I think I still hang on to Rocco, even though Sunfall we can cast. Still no green mana. So yeah, in hindsight, Quintorius might have been better here. But now Pia can at least make a Thopter for us to chump. Pia's gonna get immediately removed by Nowhere to Run. And then it could also activate the Anchorage. So we are falling behind, but we just need 1 turn with Rocco to make some food tokens. Pixie, pick up Nightmare. Discard Vantage. And once again... Alright, that's gonna hurt. I think we still need Rocco, but I also need green mana. So yeah, tough spot. Maybe I just have to give up on Rocco, plus we might exile another one. Gotta chump. I guess I could chump next turn, although next turn they animate Anchorage. So I might need to top deck a sweeper here. A robbery and torch. Alright, those are good. So I can a robbery sacking a land as well. Can start there. Finding another torch. So I could double torch their creatures. Potentially also with the bargained Thopter token. So Pia can attack. Because yeah, the Thopter could chump and then still be sacrificed to bargain. And then next turn we can hope to stabilize with a life gain from Quintorius. So that happens. Go to blockers. Block Fear. It's actually interesting. Do we prioritize taking out the Anchorage or the Fear of Isolation? Probably take out the Anchorage. So block like so. Cast with Bargain. Take out Anchorage. And Verge I'll keep. So that will get exiled by Count on Luck. Does Quintorius trigger that way? It does not. But it still seems useful, so we can Quintorius plus maybe do something else. And we'll eventually need it for Rocco. And this way we also keep a creature in play in case Quintorius can find a removal spell. And we'll still get a Thopter from Pia. Alright, Nightmare will put us to 2. Alright, so Quintorius discover first in case we find a Rocco. That way the Verge will give me an extra food token as well. Another Pia. I'll still cast it just so we gain the life. And we'll also get an extra Thopter. And then play a land, make another Thopter. Alright, so we're hanging in there. Going back to our decision, discarding Count on Luck or Rocco. Now Rocco looks a little bit better. But we'll see. Ooh, Lockdown. Alright, so if they can bounce their own Lockdown, we might die. So, we don't have much time to draw out of it. Quintorius is just gonna plus. And then, I guess we prioritize the Surveil to set up our top deck. Sunfall doesn't seem like the card we need. Alright, hopefully we're not dead. Momentum Breaker, that's acceptable. Lose our token. And Pixie, pick up Lockdown, that's game over. Alright, that's too bad. Lose 4 life. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. We have a functional hand. Can get planes so we can cast Pia. Probably Robbery, plotted first. And a Heartfire Hero might require a Torture Tower as an answer. Yeah, that's rough. I guess I'll still keep it up here. And if they have a Manifold Mouse, I probably have to respond. If they Monstrous Rage, I can also Torch. Otherwise, we can maybe afford to wait. Alright, so definitely need to Torch before that triggers. It's always difficult deciding which of the 2 creatures to take out, since Heartfire Hero can sometimes get there by itself as well. But taking out the 2-drop makes sense. And then now, another tough decision. Probably just plotting the Robbery. And then there's not too many lands I can draw in order to play Pia next turn. As our opponent unloads some more 1-drops. Count on Luck will have to wait. But I can just plot another Robbery, and then Passage can get Plains, which at least enables Pia. And then we can make a bunch of Thopters. Also want double white for Sunfall eventually, assuming we survive long enough. 2 cards in hand. Is it time for Monstrous Rage? Not yet. Getting Rocco going to get some food tokens would be nice, especially before they damage me with a Screaming Nemesis. Our opponent now contemplating what to do in response. Alright, drew a Get Lost. So I think we go for Pia. They could activate the Sanctuary end of turn, but we're about to make some blockers. They're just gonna Lightning Strike first chance they get, so I'll still get 1 Thopter. Now they can't animate Sanctuary end of turn at least. I will discard a card, and then probably get rid of Count on Luck, even though it would be nice long term. The removal is probably more important in the immediate future. And then just have to pass, I think. Next turn we can aggressively dig for a second white source for Sunfall, if the board lines up. Or we can take an alternative approach where we play Rocco into Robbery and get a +1 counter to try and stabilize. Yeah, the mana's not perfect in a deck that's trying to cast triple red spells, while still supporting some white and green cards in there. Burst Lightning, that's acceptable. What's their last card? Don't know yet. Alright, there's our second white. So Sunfall seems like the cleanest solution. And then next turn I can play Rocco, Robbery, immediately sack a food to gain 3. And then with Pia and Rocco we can close out the game pretty quickly. Could also play both and then Robbery to get most value. Kinda depends what our life total looks like. Opponent just passes. So no 5 mana for Kick Burst Lightning, so they're maybe just animating Sanctuary end of turn. So this could be a good window to go Rocco plus Pia and cast a Robbery. Rocco first, since they cannot take it out with another Lightning Strike, because if we go Pia into Rocco, they've got a window to take out Pia before we get a Thopter. And then, ooh, Witchstalker Frenzy, never mind, I guess that does get the job done. Discard a card. And then Count on Luck can help us in the late game. Could hang back in case we want to double block the Sanctuary. I don't think we necessarily do. I guess jumping would also be an option. Manifold Mouse with Offspring, that's fine. Now the Sanctuary is also a mouse, so there's a bit of synergy there. And Rest in Peace has a use in potentially making sure we don't take damage from a Heartfire hero dying, but for the most part we're trying to discard it in this matchup. So we can Count on Luck, keep up Incubator and Get Lost. And now I'll turtle up. Pia can still block a Manifold Mouse reasonably well. And if they have a pump spell, we can Get Lost in response. Or we could throw an Incubator in front of their mouse. So, yeah, given that they're attacking with both, I'll maybe try this. And there's a Monstrous Rage, so now we can Get Lost. Yeah, in a format with Monstrous Rage, it's very difficult to not keep up instant speed removal without dying against the red decks. It has been banned in Alchemy for a reason. Opponent's got another Frenzy on top. They're gonna keep it. Alright, so would love some more removal here. A land and a land. So we've got some bricks. Pia probably making her last Thopter. And we'll cast a Rest in Peace, just so we don't have to worry about Heartfire Hero in the future. And then Pia might as well attack. If I get the chance, I will jump with the Thopter. Can animate this end of turn. Would only get punished if we draw like a Brotherhood's End. Our opponent's got a Burst Lightning for the Thopter. So now I might have to jump with a 3/3 instead, which is less exciting. Or we can take 6. They're gonna take out Pia. Well, we do get some extra draw steps, but taking 6 doesn't feel great. Would love to find another Rocco. Yeah, I think I try and keep my life total high. If I find Torture Tower, I can sack Rest in Peace for bargain. Now Get Lost can answer their mouse. And gotta do it now. Still have Get Lost for the Sanctuary. Probably okay to play a land out. Alright, so we're kind of where we wanted to be in the late game, still at a reasonable life total with our card draw engine. So it's just a matter of time until we find another Rocco or Pia. Quintorius would be great too. Opponent animates the Sanctuary. Not gonna get lost just yet. Perilous Snare. Exile target non-land permanent. So start with a Praiser. Might hit a Rock or Pia, so we get value from playing a card in exile. And we do. Alright. So we can Snare. Counter on Rocco. Can eventually get it out of range from a Witchstalker Frenzy. And just exile a map. Okay. So Praiser happy to get in front of the Sanctuary, even if it's just a chump block. Burst Lightning on top. Opponent's gonna keep it. Yeah, if we can untap with Rocco, I think we can take over pretty easily. Lightning Strike goes face. But now the food tokens can stabilize us. Alrighty, so robbery, ditch, rest in peace. Robbery again. And then I can sack 2 food tokens if I'd like. And then we'll be able to end the game pretty quickly. Still want to keep Get Lost available in case of a Screaming Nemesis, because it could burst lightning it, so we can no longer gain life. Rocco's also happy to block the Sanctuary now, I think. They could use Village to give it 1 extra power, and then burst lightning could technically finish off Rocco. But then we can just get lost. So that's what they'll do. Swift Spear as well. And yeah, I guess if they cast a Burst Lightning, Rocco would also get an extra counter. So that actually doesn't work out. So they might have missed that interaction. Or they're just hoping to go face, but that's probably not gonna work out too well. So yeah. Rocco gets a counter up to 8 toughness, so don't even have to get lost. We'll just sack some food. Count on Luck finds backup Rocco. Can always cast it just to get a trigger. Start with Surveil Land. Quintorius on top is excellent. So, just count on Luck. And then I guess we'll play this, since we don't have anything else going on. And our opponent scoops it up. Yeah, they're just desperately behind at this point. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Our hands seems functional. We've got answers to various matchups. We'll eventually need some of our own card advantage. Archive, mill, stock up, so this could be Omniscience combo. So then Rest in Peace is our best card in the matchup. And yeah, there's Archaeologist. If they have Lockdown to exile, Rest in Peace, Get Lost, we'll just bring it right back. So not gonna hesitate, cast a Rest in Peace before they can counter it. And we'll see what our opponent can do about it. Some builds have Blast Zone built into the mana base, so that can eventually blow it up. And yeah, opponent discarded Omniscience, it got exiled, and our opponent scoops it up. So that's why you run a few copies of Rest in Peace nowadays. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the play with a functional hand. Can fetch maybe a mountain on 1. So we'll have the triple red for Count on Luck. Could backfire if we draw Rocco and are still missing the green mana. Opponent blue-green with a Botanical Sanctum, so a pretty unusual land in the current standard. I'll just plot the robbery, so we can immediately trigger Pia next turn. Although we could also deploy our enchantments. I see Merfolk. So finding some of our sweepers could be important. They might also be on a Cauldron combo deck. So then Snare can answer the Cauldron. Yeah, I'll just count on luck. Hope they don't have Spell Pierce. And then we can maybe make 2 Thopters at once. This might be a bounce spell for count on luck. Into the Floodmaw. At least we get a fish. Opponent now passes with more mana up. So maybe try Pia now. I'm okay if this gets countered. And since it didn't, I don't expect it to get removed either. I see. Tidebinder. So we don't trigger Pia. I can always get lost to get rid of that Tidebinder. So I think I'm still discarding Pia. And then, yeah, I guess we'll just pass for now. Do have to watch out for the Lord that can counter instants and sorceries. But they're not attacking with the Scout. Yeah, we could get lost Tidebinder to unlock Pia. Or we can just trade and then play backup. And may as well double block in case they do flash in the Lord after all. No, they trade for Pia. And Oko, that's unexpected. Can still get lost it here. Makes an Elk. So they would be left with 2 loyalty. Yeah, let's just get lost. Redeploy Count on Luck and Pia. And then next turn we'll see what we can snare. So we're a little bit behind on board, but hopefully our card advantage can take over. And double Explore. They did hit a non-lands, and yeah, there's a Pilgrimage, which can combo in a variety of ways. I'll just take 6. And there's a Researcher, so that's how they can combo with a Cauldron as well, if they have multiple copies going with the Pilgrimage. So I could keep Snare for Pilgrimage itself, since the Researcher isn't all that threatening. Definitely start here. And then I guess we can Surveil. And Rocco is excellent, now that we found the green mana. So I'll just chill. So there's a Pilgrimage. They make a token. I think I still take it this turn. Find Rocco. Play it. Can also play the land from exile. And then I could make a 2/2 token to block the 1/1s a little bit better. Could also grow PI into a 3-powered creature. Might want to increase our speed by attacking with the Thopter. Just gotta survive a turn or 2, and then Count on Luck should take over. So I think the best way to stop a combo is just to exile the Pilgrimage itself. And then Rest in Peace could also be useful if they are counting on Cauldron. So they can still make a token on the way out. And they will tap one of my creatures. I think I still try and get in to increase my speed. Is that greedy? Because yeah, I guess they can collect evidence again next turn to tap down a blocker. Yeah, that seems greedy. I'll just pass. find Rest in Peace. So that can also shut down collect evidence going forward. Tap down Rocco. And we'll be jumping. Guess have to watch out for the Lord giving the team +1/+1. So maybe I'll just block like so, or double block I guess is fine too. Then they just take out the Thopter. So maybe it's better to jump here, double block here. So we're only taking one. And now we should comfortably be in the lead. And our opponents has seen enough. Can play Quintorius first, trigger Pia, trigger Rocco. Then play Rest in Peace, which triggers Pia, Rocco, and now also Quintorius. And then we can maybe discover, triggering everything once again. So this was going to be a massacre. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have a reasonable hand. Surveil on 1, maybe plot a robbery, set up Pia. And another land's useful. Do I want to maybe get greedy and dig towards a second white source instead? Yeah, I think I can. Want to find our card draw enchantments, perhaps. Opponent on blue-black. So it might be a more controlling deck. Make that Grixis. Step 1, play Pia. And then I don't think we'll need Sunfall. Probably want to back up Pia. And Get Lost can still hit enchantments if they're on Artist's Talent, for instance. And yeah, Bitter Triumph, just paying 3 life. So at least they're not a Reanimator deck. And Count on Luck is the type of card we need. So this turn, hit for 1. See if we can resolve our enchantments. And then Pia's going to be a bit more exciting if we can immediately trigger it. Opponent says no. So they do seem to be a pretty dedicated control deck. So I've got 2 pretty weak cards in the matchup. Jace, we can maybe still finish off. Opponent's gonna immediately mill for 15. Alright, so they are a mill deck, probably with the River Churn Monument as well. So, not too happy about that. Seems like a tough matchup. And we don't have much artifact removal in case Monument shows up. Just a Perilous Snare and Brotherhood's End. 1 snare gone. I guess Rest in Peace can also be useful in this matchup, since if we exile our own graveyard, the Monuments cannot really exhaust to mill us for more, but both of those are gone. So, is it Pia or is it Appraiser? I guess we can Pia first, and then Appraiser maybe triggers Pia next turn. But yeah, for opponent's hand is somewhat functional. We should be in trouble. 31 cards remain. And yeah, Explosion was also to be expected. Discarding 2 more Explosions. Alright, Rocco could be fun. So let me start there. Alright, so opponent needs to not play their Monument this turn. Although a Deadly Cover-Up looks pretty strong. They can extract all the Roccos out of my deck. They're gonna just exile it with Anoint instead. Maybe missing an extra land. I guess I could get Lost Rocco just to get those map tokens. If they play Jace, they're likely to immediately minus it. And they don't seem to be... well, maybe that was a mistake, since they might still be on Teresian Mindbreaker. Since they have a lot of blue mana. So then Get Lost is a way to destroy it before they get to mill me. So I can play Pia, but then Brotherhood's End either destroys my map tokens or all my creatures, if I want to make a Thopter. So I can play Pia and maybe just explore. A map token can still be useful for a bargain, but we'll see. Alright, go for the throat now. So, opponent's got another Jace. So if they have a third, we're dead. But our opponent's gonna keep Jace at a healthy loyalty here. But now I can torch with bargain. And maybe improve my draw step. Could also play Appraiser in case we hit a removal spell, but I can always put it in hand. And yeah, I don't think we need Torch. Opponent also played a Restless Reef, so that's another card that can mill us. So yeah, we're super far behind. That's the type of card we needed, although slow card advantage is not really where you want to be against a mill deck. So another Jace could be lethal, although I imagine if they had a third Jace they would have just milled us in the first place. Monument, and they can exhaust, and that's game over as well. GG's. So yeah, that's where Rest in Peace can also be useful. But yeah, this seems like a pretty bad matchup. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw with a keepable hand. We have Pia plus Robbery, so we'll see if we want to plot this first. Opponent blue-black with Talons, so Pixie deck. I think I'm just going to get another Mountain, even though down the line we might need green for Rocco. Momentum Breaker just to make me discard. So Quintorius is maybe the most ambitious card to keep if they have more discard effects. Even though the life gain could be nice to stabilize. Rest in Peace, not a priority in this matchup, so I'm probably going to end up discarding it to my Robbery. Even though it can stop the recursion from a leveled up talent. Pixie is gonna pick up the Momentum Breaker. So I'll just discard the Rest in Peace now. Torture Tower's not bad either. So maybe ditch the Appraiser. Could also just resolve the count on luck and then wait another turn on Pia. Just so we're more guaranteed to make some Thopter tokens with it. Or I could just go Pia now, Robbery, discard Appraiser, torch the Pixie. Maybe that's still a little safer so we don't fall too far behind. But they might end up making me discard. And then it's possible I'll have to get rid of the count on luck. Also should have first seen if we draw into a fast land, but was not the case. And then I'll just take out the Pixie now, even though I could maybe wait to bargain with the Thopter if they were to remove it. But we might get in trouble if our opponent bounces their own Pixie back to hand. I'll take 2 for now. Thopter can save our creatures from another Momentum Breaker. And Pixie goes for a Nowhere to Run. Talent, they're not sure. It's going to be the Talents. Alright, so good turn for Count on Luck. Play Parlor, and now look for green mana. Well, that's tapped green mana. Might still be worth keeping. Even though most of our green sources now are going to be untapped with Fabled Passage and the Verge. And opponent not casting any ways to trigger Prowess implies they might have an instant in hand. So I'll still keep the Thopter in hand to maybe soak up a Momentum Breaker. It's going to be a Kaito, also makes sense. So then the trades might have worked. Get Lost can take out Kaito at least.
My eyes are as sharp as my sword.
And Pia, that's excellent. And Get Lost now. And then I can probably afford to attack. So we're getting our engine online. Opponents may be a little bottlenecked on mana. So Pia down. But Rocco is about to replace her. Alright, so let's Rocco play Parlor. That's going to determine what we exile with Rocco. And a Verge would be acceptable. And again, I'll maybe just Torch now to be safe. And then 4 toughness is enough, so we can put the counter on Orthopter. And the land at least guarantees that I can play something from exile that triggers Rocco. And we don't mind keeping the lands flowing. Although if they have removal for Rocco, we might regret it. Destroy Evil, not a card you usually see in the Pixie decks. So now the land doesn't look quite as exciting. I guess this also could have destroyed Count on Luck. So we're down to 4, but we do have a food token. And another Count on Luck in exile. Alright, so we still get to play both. So Praiser first, in case we find Pia or Rocco, we'll get more triggers out of it. And there's Pia once again. So we'll get 2 Thopters now. Alternatively, I could sack the food if we're afraid of double Hopeless Nightmare. Which, yeah, could potentially happen. If our opponent has this town in big enough, they can bounce it. So then they just need 1 land and 1 additional copy in hand. And this might be overkill. So I think we play it safe. Pixie can also pick up the Nightmare. Goes for nowhere to run. So now finding removal for Pixie can clear a path for our Thopters. Question is, do we trade for the Otter token if they enable Prowess and attack? Assuming they take out Pia, and we could trade for a Praiser. They also have double Underground River and Caves, so that's also dealing them some damage. Can first wait and see if they attack. At the very least they can make another blocker. Opponent's gonna explore instead. Finding a land. So I'm less incentivized to trade now, because our opponent would just die. So our opponent hangs back, still gonna gain 3. And then we've got a lot of top decks that win the game. And Rocco giving us a +1 counter is pretty decent. So if I put the counter here, attack all out, that should be good enough. And our opponent explodes, awesome. Alright, so we got to see this Naya Exile deck in action, and it's a deck I've been iterating on for quite some time. There's a lot of ways you can configure it. You can push it into a more aggressive direction or make it a little bit more controlling, so there is a lot of flexibility there. Probably means it's going to be better suited for a best of 3 environment compared to best of 1, because despite my best efforts to improve certain matchups, there's always going to be a different matchup that's going to line up poorly, so you can't win them all. But again, there's a lot of ways to configure it. Could add some more adventure cards like the Questing Druid to improve some of the synergies there too, add more threats to the deck. But at the end of the day, I've configured it for the current best of 1 meta, which mostly consists of aggro decks and combo decks that rely on the graveyard, so that's kind of what I'm aiming for. But yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.